Okay, so I was on Facebook this morning, and my friend actually asked me a really interesting and good question that I wanted to talk about. He asked me about where I get my ideas. I'm not going to say this right. I'm totally going to butcher it. I meant to have the Facebook up and to read it, but I don't have it with me because I'm stupid. But if I start with a general idea and just go with it, or if I have something more specific in mind and I try to work the story around that. And so I just want to talk about kind of how I pursue the creative writing process and where I kind of get my ideas from. Usually my ideas come like they're weird as oh, we're in the truck. It's not my Explorer. Usually with my stories, I'll get inspired by something. I don't know where my ideas come from. I'm sure they come from my life and the different things that I see and experience. But a lot of my stories, they come out of nowhere. But a lot of the time, I'll get one little idea, just a little piece of the story, and then I'll just go from there. Like the brain transplant story. This one is actually the wife and my dad are like, hey, you should write a story about a guy that gets a brain transplant, and that was about as specific as it was. And so I just sat down and then just started writing. I really try not to think about my stories. I know a lot of people like to outline and start with here's chapter 1, chapter 2. I mean, if you're writing a book, but with their stories, they outline them. And for me, I've done that in the past, and my projects that I've done that with in the past have failed miserably. I mean, they have not done well until I just passed a cop. It's too confining and too structured, and I think with any kind of art, I don't know, I want to say we're kind of taught, maybe subconsciously if nothing else, we're taught that we need to be in control of what we're creating so we get what we want, and I feel like that is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. What we're doing is taking this ephemeral idea of art that we really don't understand, and then we don't really know where it comes from or what it means, and we're trying to interpret what it means through ourselves. And in doing that, I really feel like with writing, you don't tell the story, you let the story tell you what to write. And I really feel like that's what I do a lot with my stories. And so a lot of the time, I kind of get scared of the things that I start writing because I wonder, like, where's this coming from? I don't think about these things all that often. Why am I writing this really angry, weird, crazy, bizarre stuff? And so I really think it's really important to not try to control your stories, but to let your stories control themselves, and that we're more, as writers, the interpreters or the scribes, whatever you want to call it. We're not the actual creators themselves. We are just the person writing down what the story is telling us, what the characters are telling us. And I really feel like that's how people write good stories. When you read a book and you're just like, wow, so awesome. Characters, the plot, it was just an amazing book, the great author. It's because the author didn't write it. He just was like a copy editor or a secretary. He just typed out what the story was telling him. I really feel like that's important. And another thing that I kind of get from my ideas is a lot of the time I'll just think of the first or second line. I'm really good at thinking of first lines. I think that maybe that's really pompous of me, but I think for my writing, my best stuff is when I've come up with just the first line or the first two lines, and I work on it from there. Because I feel like I have less expectation for the story when I do that. It's more of just, what comes out, rather than having a kind of general idea of like, this is kind of what the story is about. Because I feel like when I'm writing, I really don't know what the story is about. Even if I have something in mind, I'm really not sure what it's about. And so it's really hard, actually, because the wife will ask me like, hey, what are you writing about? And I'm like, I'm not quite sure yet. The story isn't finished. And even when I do finish a story, I'm still not quite sure sometimes what I have just wrote about. I can tell you what happens in the story, but I don't necessarily know what it's about. And I think that's another important aspect of writing, is that we can't say what the story is about, because once something's written and we give it to the public, it's no longer our story. I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends, and the whole idea that, the author is dead, and that what I think the story is about isn't really what the story is about. And I really believe that's true, because so what if I think this, like Hills Like White Elephants, supposedly about abortion. I'm sorry, I've read that story a few times, do not see it at all. That's not what I get from it. And so then that's not what it's about, because that's not what I read out of it. For some people that may be what they read, but for me it's not. And I think that's the cool thing about any kind of art, whether it be writing or painting or sculpture or whatever, is that the piece only means what it means to the person that is viewing it at that moment in time, and it does nothing to do with what the author or the artist intended, because their intentions don't mean jack when it comes to what we interpret of it. So anyway, hopefully that answered his question. I wrote him back, obviously, not as long or eloquent, and not that I'm eloquent, but not as long and arduous of an explanation as this, but that's what I think. So anyway, reading later. I'm heading off to Home Depot right now to get some supplies for our Rocho practice today. We're building sets, and I'm the set builder man / kind of designer, although I had a friend do the mock-up designs for me. So anyway, it's Friday. Woo! Friday! I'm excited. It's been a long week. I've been so tired all week with these 4 o'clock in the morning getting upness. It's terrible. Anyway, I'll read to you guys in a little bit. Almost got through it. Almost. Let's do that again. Well, it's that time again where you have to listen to what I've written. Too bad for you. I'm reading the rest of the story that I read last Friday, so if you don't remember what that looks like, it looks like this, with the black and the gray and the white. I read the white and the gray last time. This time, I'm going to read the gray and the black. Let me know what you think in comments down below, and I'll even put a link to last week's video so you can go watch the first half of the reading and then this half as well. Here we go. We drift through a complexion of perceived altercation, a transcendence past what we know, what we want to know, or can know, past life of now and then and future, past the very makeup of this conscious universe, beyond. But we fall from the above heavens of mankind to the edges of tolerance. The black of unfilled space opens inward, pulling out the convinced coal we be. Take the nocebo. Swallow the truth of what we cannot prove by any means. We are wandering through this hole where worms bury the flesh of the dead and decaying. Memory rotting by the wayside of belied promises to ourselves. Please let us free. What is free? The harrowing platitude of dreaming darkens the hopes of the better. Then what? What is better than now? We call for more knowledge, experience, a touch. Give body to our imagination. We sleep. Desires are the victuals of unseen demons, but the dark consumes with truculence, a creature of convivial behavior. Hide from what pains to watch. Destruction and image of change cannot be without witness. Cover our eyes, shield them from time. Run, motionless, held in place by the ocean of dream sand, feet flying with despair, going nowhere. Help! What can we do? We fall in constant digressive waves, losing the knowledge of our own past, removing layers of our wrinkled minds, throw pieces of our onions away. Stop the nightmare. We want to sleep no more. Night brings nothing for happiness, no rest. Recuperate in me, because all dissolve into one. Our soluble dreams mix the solution of the future. We melt together, tempered steel, presenting indestructibility, but weakened with ease. The slope is slippery in the darkness. We cannot see to where it may lead, but we move downward, always down, never a change in direction. Accelerate. The black has weight, sitting on our laps, securing our bodies to the mostness of underneath. We see everything we do not want to see. How have we strayed so far from the beginning? Booyah. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that piece. I really enjoyed writing that one, actually. It was really fun. I did it in one sitting, thankfully. I always enjoy it when I can get a whole piece out at one time. So yeah, leave your comments below what you think of the piece, and I will see you guys on Monday. Peace out.